be chilling tonight. I need to feel tonight, man.
Hey, man, where my radio, man?
Yeah.
Let's go. I need you to turn that up.
Jamming tonight.
Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
Pull the way up like we in the club. Fly flashy, grown classy, so turn to the dub. Saturday mornings, no walk of shame, we fresh up. 950 lounge, that's my guilty pleasure. I don't miss my favorite show, I put everything on hold. Work the baby, even the babysitter know. When 950 come on, don't bother. I'm locked in 10 to 1, no problem.
Turn on the radio. You and I turn on the radio. Yeah.
We're back on the Ride 9 Feet Lounge live Saturday morning. DSN W100 broadcasting 1620 AM to Lehigh, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, CBTV. The list goes on and on. Anything else? Did I miss any networks? Huh? All right, good. I got them all.
And a partridge in a pear tree.
Thank you, Tourette's.
Mm-hmm.
What? he's in lag mode.
Every time I'm gonna try something new for this show. Every time he says something like that, I'm just gonna go, what?
We gotta get a bell.
Like a ding.
We gotta get a bell.
Something like Rashad's gotta have a what?
Give me a bell. Give me something.
We do. We got a staple thing right
you
there.
got
That's
maybe,
easy.
maybe a Ric Flair woo or something. We'll work that out.
Woo.
But ladies and gentlemen, we have a lady here that's again doing some phenomenal things. And when the duty of running for public office called, she beckoned to answer the bell. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 9 Feet Lounge, Miss Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. Welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
And we're very super excited to have you too. And again, like I said, it's what we've seen throughout this week. You know, if it doesn't, I don't care who you are, what the mountaintops of Georgia, the inner cities of Chicago, the snow-capped mountains of Utah. We need some change. It doesn't matter what political party you have. We battle all the time here, but we need some definite change. And again, somebody like yourself that's coming in with a raw approach, with a fresh approach, and not being brought is fantastic. But I want you to want to start off with, again, you being a Bronx resident, so you share that with all of us. Your journey to the precipice of where you're at now.
Yeah, definitely. So I never planned to run for office. I'm running for Congress here in the Bronx and Queens. So our community, New York 14, where we're at, is half in the Bronx, half in Queens, and it's got Rikers Island in the middle. And so I was born in Parkchester. My dad was born by Brook Avenue. My mom was actually born in Puerto Rico.
So you know about Zaros and Macy's.
And they just brought it back.
They just brought it back.
Yeah, they brought Zaros back?
They just brought it back.
Yeah, it was gone for like a year and a half, but they brought it back.
The Step-In.
Yes, all still there. And,
you know all the food places, don't you?
I do.
Yeah, and I have family in Hunts Point. And so it kind of, all of our stories, they are part of generations of stories, and so my father's born in the South Bronx when the Bronx was burning and this whole borough was in total turmoil in a way, chaos.
Right.
But he was able to kind of find his way through. He went to Brooklyn Tech, and he started a little, like his dream when he was 6 years old was that he wanted to be an architect.
Wow.
So he did it, he pulled it off. It was pretty crazy. And so he had a little small business. He set up shop in Parkchester, and that's what I grew up around. So my parents met in Puerto Rico, and we started, they started their little family in a 1-bedroom apartment in Parkchester.
Wow.
And so when I was born, I first, growing up in the Bronx and everything, the way public schools were in the late 80s and early 90s in the Bronx, as everyone knows, it was like crazy.
Yes.
It was just totally insane. And so my mom saw that coming from PR, and she's like, we didn't have money to go to a private school or a Catholic school or anything. So my mom was like, we need to figure out a situation. We need to figure something out. So my whole family came together, and we got this tiny little house, like my aunts, my grandma, my uncle, you know, whatever.
Family came together.
Family came together, and we all pitched in for this tiny little house. Like now it was like 40 minutes upstate with a highway, but back then it was like 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I went to public school up in Yorktown, a little more
Yorktown
upstate,
Heights, yep,
Yorktown Heights. But my dad, but we had our little like spot. We worked here in Parkchester. So, and my whole family was here and in Queens and everything. So I grew up very aware of the impact that your zip code has on your destiny.
Without question.
And I grew up like as a child, intrinsically knowing there was something up, like there's something wrong about this situation, that like when I was here, I had certain opportunities, but when I was there, like in other places in the Bronx with my family, that those opportunities were denied.
Right.
So I always grew up with that kind of knowledge. And so I grew up and I went to college. I was able to go to Boston University. And like I was the first person on my mom's side to go to college, and it was like college is a big deal in a family, you know, when you're there.
And that's no not to any smaller schools, but Boston University, very prestigious university.
Yeah, and so it was that was just like a crazy experience, because it was like my whole family went to college. You know, that's how it is. It's like your whole, everybody who ever loved you went to college.
You can do it.
Yeah.
All the dreams came through you.
Yeah. And so that was another thing I was always aware of. That is like, this has never been about me. This has always been about like something so much bigger.
Yeah.
So much bigger.
Right.
So I initially went wanting to be a doctor. I was a pre-medical student, but then I like everything, and I'm sure like as you guys started talking this morning, everything kind of ties into this bigger picture.
Without question.
And so when we see like the health disparities, why do we have obesity issues here? Why are diabetes, like why is diabetes this
Asthma.
issue? Asthma, we have the highest child per capita rate of asthma in the country, the South Bronx. And so when you start asking like why, it all goes back to policy. It all, like there are real structural reasons as to why we have these outcomes. So I started studying policy more. I was able to work with the late Senator Kennedy and work under him, under more like foreign policy.
Talking about that for a moment, obviously, you know, Ted Kennedy, a staple of political life, the Camelot Kennedys. How was that experience, being a young girl from the Bronx, mother from Puerto Rico, you know, and then working with Ted Kennedy?
It was wild. Like first you walk in there, and I'm sure we've all been in the situation where like you walk into a space and it's just like not the culture that you're used to, and you feel like
era.
exactly. Like
Why am I here?
Yeah.
Where's my brother Bobby? I mean,
And like you know there are rules, but you don't know what those rules are. And you're like, I know that I can say things and I can't say other things, but I don't know what those things are.
Don't say car, say car.
You just like you know you're walking to a situation with like social rules, but like you have no idea what those rules are. So that was definitely part of my experience working there. But it was also like really incredible. Like we walked in, he had a pair of Benjamin Franklin's glasses in his office.
Oh, I thought you were going to say a pair of gazelles. I was like,
They want original gazelles.
You probably had those too. I'm surprised.
And so like when you walked in, you knew that you were part of history. Like you really, like it was around you, it was there. And the people that I worked with were so capable and compassionate and intelligent, it was really like what it's all about, what public service should be about. At the same time though, going back to that beginning, it's like I also knew that despite everyone being so kind and well-intentioned, that this system is like not designed for working class people. Like girls from the Bronx don't work for Ted Kennedy on the regular. Like that, it's not designed for that. It was like, and so I knew I was very lucky, but I also knew that that opportunity was very rare.
Now, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, when you worked for him, did he talk about his brothers and how his family and all of them was? And because I mean, I read some of Chris Matthews' book about his brother Robert. And he was saying like how he was for the working man and how they was always trying to make sure that everybody was brought up at the same time, not just predominant rich people. It didn't care about the race. It didn't care about the class. It was all about everybody growing at once.
I will say that was absolutely a value. Definitely, definitely. And I kind of discovered in Robert Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy's legacy more when I worked there. And so like Bobby Kennedy's my favorite Kennedy. Because he was really about it. He was probably about it more than almost anyone.
Yes.
So that experience was really amazing. But so like I was there when the senator had passed away. Like I was that was around that time. And so when I left, it kind of became this choice, like, am I going to go into politics or not even politics, but like policy, really? Because I switched. I started studying economics, and that's what I ultimately got a degree in. But it was that same thing. Like I felt like even if it was just me, like it's a systemic problem that we have. And
so through that process of being there, did you feel, was it like you mentioned, like this is rare? So did you see like, well, maybe I'm the chosen, or do you say like, you know what, it's my job now to bring more people like me up this angle?
Yeah, I felt the second part, and even then, I left policy and I left politics after that because how I had really felt was like I saw this stuff happening on the federal level, and even then, like there's something to be said for being like the one person in like a sea of many, but at the same time I felt like if I really cared about my community and if I really wanted to impact it, I would go back and work directly with my community. That's how I felt called in that moment.
So we fast forward to, I believe, 2015.
Yeah.
And the opportunity opened up where some people, a group of people came to you and felt like you was the woman for the job. Go dive into that.
So like the time between then and now was like pretty long. And so basically so much stuff happened in my family. The financial crisis hit.
Yes.
My father was diagnosed with lung cancer and he passed away. And so like my family, like it was insane. Like it was crazy. My mom, single mom. I grew up cleaning houses with my mother, just like trying to make ends meet. And like that's where we were. And my mom was driving buses, and it's like in the middle, all of this in the middle of the financial crisis. So we were like, this whole home that started this whole story was about to get foreclosed on. And so we were just like, it was crazy. And so I had felt that like, you know, we were doing whatever we could. So I started waitressing, bartending, working in restaurants.
18-hour days.
18-hour days to make ends meet. And that's when I really saw, not that I didn't see it before because I grew up that way, but experiencing that, I really saw something more of, experiencing that I really saw like what it's like, you know, what it's like when you work an 18-hour day, like how much does insurance cost? When you're waitressing, like all these things that we have these national debates on, like healthcare, you know, whatever. You try paying $200 a month when you're making $40,000 a year. And having that kind of visceral experience, that was my life. And so when Bernie started running in 2016, I helped organize the South Bronx, not too far from here, for that.
He was a Bernie supporter.
And and
he wasn't.
That's why. That's why he's on the end.
And then after that, I went to Standing Rock, where you know things were going on. So when I returned, I got a phone call from Brand New Congress saying, we're interested in helping you and launching a campaign for you to run for Congress.
Now let's tell people who don't know what Brand New Congress is, because I think it's a very, I mean, I obviously heard you on the Young Turks and I follow those guys, and Rachel Maddow talked about it. This is, I think, a re-revolutionized. It's almost what the Tea Party to people who followed that in 2010, what now Brand New Congress is. Please dive into this.
Yeah, so Brand New Congress is this really audacious project to try to support people running for Congress that don't take any corporate money. And so we're running 100% grassroots, individual donor campaigns, no fossil fuel companies, no real estate developers, like nothing touches our campaign. And it's
all organic.
It's all organic, it's very scrappy, but it's been really, really effective. And so I'm just one candidate in a coalition of many. And so I have brother and sister candidates in Ferguson, in Chicago,
West Virginia.
Yes. And it transcends. It's a movement that transcends race, class, geography, just to try to stand up for what's right.
But I think what it gives, and we're talking again to Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, running for Congress in the Bronx, 14th District, Bronx, Queens. What it does say is that, you know what, no matter how we wrapped up in, we all want the American dream. Like, you know, you went to college and your family you had that pressure on your back. You came back home, father, adversity. Somebody says, oh, I went to Boston University. I'm not bussing tables. No, it didn't matter. And I think what people see, and I remember, and we have your, you know, the camera team that's following you, watching that trailer about the issues West Virginians deal with cancer and cutting down mountains. It doesn't matter how you're wrapped up. It's just I want a peace. And I think it's unfortunate that sometimes we see the political structure now. It's only for a chosen few. Chatting with Alexandria Ocasio Cortez, running for the 14th District of Congress in New York. This, you know, I don't know if you guys realize, this is the second week in January. This makes our 4th year at DSN.
Yes.
So I gotta say thank you to the power players that are here, the DWI, Mike the moderator, the whole team. This has been a 4-year run. So you know, it's
second week in January.
Second week in January. We started 2014.
If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't even want to do this no more.
That's true. So I blame you.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's a 4-year run. That's been a great run. Let's get back to Alexandria. And we were talking obviously about her time growing up. Family's important. Working the 8-hour days, time with the Kennedys. Now getting with this new political movement. Let's talk about your competitor a little bit, Mr. Crowley, that you're running against in the primary.
Yeah. So. So New York City and New York politics is wild. And I feel like when I moved back, one of the big reasons why I was like, you know, I want to work with kids, I want to work in education, which was some of the stuff that I was doing, was because, like, you know, we're so used to seeing our elected officials in handcuffs that it's like no big deal anymore.
You know what?
You know?
You see, we're joking about
we all laugh, but that's really sad.
Yes.
That these people that we elect in the office all go to jail.
Yeah, this year alone, we have 6 criminal trials for New York City public officials. Yes, we had just this past week someone accused of sexual assault. Another one. It's like. It really rains here with this stuff.
In Southern California.
Yeah, they really flicking the wrist.
Yeah. And so, but it all comes down to the fact that our politicians here are not really chosen by the people. Right. They're like all appointed. It's like such a machine of games and who's friends with who. And there's a lot of horse trading that goes on, which like is not surprising, results in a lot of corruption. Yeah,
like you said, remember the movie Extinguished Gentlemen when we was talking about that, how a person ran on somebody that was dead, but because they were known, people just hit the ballot.
It's funny, you know? I was listening to one of your former alumni, Mr. Howard Stern from Boston University, and he ran for governor back in 1994. And he talked about it, how like it was all a stick, but after a while, he was right behind Pataki neck and neck. And it's like, wait a minute, I just was trying to just play around. And I think that's what, in my opinion, we see what happened at 1600 Pennsylvania. That was a guy that just, you know, drunken off power, not really about policy. He's not really somebody looking to help people. It was just about, you know what, something that, you know, sounds kind of cool for a 70-year-old billionaire to do. And what has happened, and the scary part is that people, and even our media, and I, you know, again, we're media as well, but there's media that we look upon, and I won't mention the names, we look upon to give us the real. And in a world where TMZ becomes your most credible news source, that's a problem. And Non-Free Lounge as well. It's a problem. So what I want to talk to you about, obviously, again, going about the policies with Crowley and that situation, and what's going on in your mind and how you're justifying when you go to people and they see what's happening on a national scale.
Yeah, so kind of going back and how that translates to us. So like I said, the district is half in the Bronx, half in Queens, also includes Rikers Island. It's very heavily...
So where you're at now, this is...
This is just under the district,
okay,
just under the district.
Okay.
But it's basically like like, it's very Latino, it's very African American, it's very, very immigrant. We have a lot of new Bangladeshi brothers and sisters moving into the neighborhood. We've never had a person of color represent us in American history.
Incredible.
In this congressional district.
Incredible. Wow.
Our current Congressman, Joseph Crowley, never even won the seat.
Right.
He never even had an election because he was a protege to his mentor, and his mentor used a loophole in New York City election law to appoint him as the Democratic nominee.
Yes.
Wow.
And he's been the congressman ever since.
But wait, now, quick question. How long has he been, since I live in Westchester, I can say this, how long has he been congressman for?
20 years.
20 years.
So you mean to tell me this man has never ran?
He never ran, and
He's never ran throughout the 20 years?
in the 20 years, there was one primary election 17 years ago, and he barely won it.
So he hasn't ran in 17 years.
He's a Democrat in a very liberal city, so nobody's going to run against him. Republicans are not going to put somebody against him, and that's why this is so important to have this lady here, because somebody's saying, you know what, here's a guy here that we've seen 20 years of stuff happening, and even if you like what's happening in these areas, in certain areas, it's not for us.
No, it's not for us.
Right.
And in the meantime, you look at like who's funding him, because when you really look, so if he's never been elected, if the people didn't vote for him, who is he working for? He's working for his donors. Who are his donors? Who gives him money? Luxury real estate developers, pharmaceutical companies, Wall Street insurance corporations. And when you look at his voting record and what he lobbies for, that's what he's done. What he does, he takes $3 million per cycle from Wall Street. He just lobbied for deregulating foreign real estate developers. You know, these shady LLCs that are scooping up all of our houses out here. He's paving the way for that. He voted to deregulate the banks right after the financial crisis. And so our district median income's around $47,000 a year. It's staunchly working class. And he's not where he needs to be.
Doesn't identify with his constituency.
He just wants the money for himself. Basically, he's working for.
He's been getting the money. It's not. Let's call it what it is. 17 years, you've been getting $3 to $5 million from whoever. That's a lot of money.
Let's face it. He's working for his constituents are not residing.
Not residing here.
That's just the loophole. You know.
But you know, one thing I can actually say that I'm looking at, as been going through the politics so much of these last couple of months, is that with these last couple of special elections that we did have, a lot of grassroots people have been running in other states. So I'm thinking now, with everybody being so disheartened with this guy in the White House, that they are now starting to bring out other people within other states to start coming out and just saying, hey, you know what, if I can run for my state, if I can run for my little small corner of my neighborhood, I can make a difference, and then we can start changing. So if you notice that you start seeing like the transgender lady that won, and then you also see mothers, and you see some people that, like this other gentleman that's right now running against Paul Ryan to bump him out of his own seat. So, you know, it's a lot of, it's a whole lot of people that's coming from grassroots, like saying, hey, you know what, you're not representing me, so I'm coming out.
Let me add something before we get on to Trump. I know you got something to say.
Right.
And I want to ask you, Alexandria, has the Trump, I don't know what we call it, but the Trump presidency, even through its negative, some of the things, appalling comments, has it galvanized or been a pot of hot coffee thrown on somebody's face to say, you know what, I gotta be the hero now. It's time. I just can't sit back and just say, okay, you handle it or you do it. I gotta do it. So has it, from a negative, been almost a positive?
Yeah, there's definitely been a silver lining to it, 100%, because I think people, it absolutely was that like cold splash of water, and it was just like, oh, like, no one's gonna save us. No one's gonna save us. We have to do it ourselves. And I think that the interesting thing, and when, you know, obviously there are so many negatives to the Trump presidency, but if you actually look at and tease out some of the things that we've learned and can use constructively, is that we know, at least I believe, that one of the reasons Trump won was because people are getting onto the system. And people are getting so frustrated, and like people are just feeling like everybody is bought and sold for
Like
and spoken
the person,
for.
your opponent.
And they just feel like no one's fighting for them with the teeth that they should be.
Right.
That Democrats, it's always like a okay, they'll stand up for like equal rights, but they won't stand up for economic rights.
Yeah.
And so like people were getting onto it. They knew that Wall Street had bought every single candidate, and they're like, you know what? And you can either take that energy and channel it into something positive, or you can channel it into something destructive. And I think they just decided to light the match and say, show them.
You know what? One thing I can say Trump did that's positive is that the ordinary people, like I feel I'm ordinary, now are into politics. I have never watched CNN in all my life until Trump got in office. So the thing is that younger people, that's younger than me, are starting to look at politics. That's why so many young people you starting to see are starting to get into politics. And that's one thing I can say Trump did. Now, like I said, the Band-Aid is off. So now you can't sugarcoat it no more. It's in front of you. So now what you going to do with it?
Unlike my brother, I've always been somebody who's followed the political. I have to say that this is my blood brother.
He always throws me under the bus.
That wasn't, it was always my thing. I always followed it. I was a guy who worked when I was at City College with David Patterson when he was state senator, when Bill Clinton ran in '92 when he was nominated at the Garden. I was one of those people at school helping. So I've always had an affection for politics, a fascination with it. And being a Democrat, registered Democrat for a very long time. And to the point where I realized, and it started to bother me being a Democrat, that it seems like only time the Democrats walk in our neighborhoods is when it's time for the vote. You know, okay, we'll sash out, it's like almost Nino Brown in New Jack City. We'll give you turkeys and we'll bring a rap artist in and we'll party, and then, oh, go ahead, here's the signing table to sign up as a Democrat, and then don't see you for 4 years.
Yep.
Right.
So I was very disheartened. Not that the Republicans say anything much for me. Working in a corporation that was very conservative as a radio network, I learned the other side. So I said, I'm just going to be independent. I'm just going to ride the wave. What fits Kevin M. Pryor? What fits my family? What's going to help me be better? And that's why I was so fascinated with you, because regardless with Bernie Sanders, and he was an independent primarily, but what your group is doing is like, we're regular people. We're school teachers. We're police officers. We're whatever. We're just trying to make it better for us. And that's what it's about. It's not about, well, just vote for the donkey or vote for the GOP. It's about what helps us. And I think, again, I want to use this 950 platform to help you, because if we don't support one another, it's just status quo. I think what has happened over the last 8 years with President Obama, people who don't follow the local stuff got numb. Oh, I got a black president, you know, my president's black, thank you, Jay-Z. But the reality is that it's not about that, it's about your local policy. Who's going to your school with your kids? Who's helping you with your building maintenance? Who's helping get the trash and some of the unsavory characters out of your neighborhoods? It's your local policy.
See, but that's the thing that we can agree on, because the problem was once Obama got elected, they expected him to be
numb.
Besides numb, they expected him to do everything, but they didn't want to back him up to have that stuff, because you have to have your local persons to be able to represent you. And then the funny thing was, he kept telling people, if you want me to do it, then vote for the people that you need
because
to have
people,
in.
let's just call it what it is. People were just the same phenomenon Trump had, Obama had. People just voted for Obama because of the hue. A lot of people, a lot of us did. They didn't know what Obama stood for. You know, the black man run for president.
You know what? Honestly, when he first came on, I learned about him because of after I saw.
You did.
No, I'm saying, but I saw Oprah backed him up, and then you say, you know what? You got to start learning and start seeing who's who and what's what.
Yeah, but because Oprah says he's the man, doesn't make him the man.
It wasn't that. I'm saying, but he was an upstart that nobody knew who he was.
Yeah.
Right.
And he just came straight, and that's why a lot of times a lot of them was upset with him.
He bumped
because
Hillary back in 08.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but that was the whole problem. But see, but that was the situation. People did not know who he was, and then they said, oh, he jumped the line, so that's why they gave him such a hard time, because there's probably a political line that you can't go past.
Yep. And go for it.
No, go ahead.
No, well, and that idea of a line is so wrong.
Yeah.
It's so messed up, because what a line implies is that someone else decides that you can go.
Yeah.
And in a democracy, it should only be voters.
Right.
It should only be voters that say, okay, that's the person. But the way that our system works is if you paid, patronage to this guy, that guy, if you took the right amount of money from this luxury developer, then that's what puts you to the top of the line.
No. So it's like kiss the ring then, basically.
Well, that's why your candidate is not in the White House right now, because of that being the tone of line. Let me ask you a question, Alexandria. Again, you're a registered Democrat, but obviously we saw a lot of corruption. Donna Brazile, Jebby Wasserman Schultz, the whole party with keeping Bernie kind of suppressed. How has your group, your new group, that's a new phenomenon, how's it been recepted by the core party?
Well, I think there hasn't been any. They're icing us, is what I'll say. And this is kind of I would say the strategy is just hope the problem goes away.
Right.
It's the same thing with Joe Crowley. We went from I started this whole thing, I had 250 people following me on Twitter, and we're at almost 10,000 right now.
Nice.
Right.
And, but he still won't acknowledge that he's being challenged in a primary. People ask, what do you think about your opponent? He says, I have no idea what you're talking about.
You don't think you're a threat.
Yeah, and so that's just kind of the strategy overall, but that doesn't bother me. That doesn't concern me, because the way that we've structured this campaign is so long as I keep knocking on doors and talking to people like you and keep my focus on the voters, because voters and constituents and people, the community, is the most important thing to me, I'll just stay focused on that. And I don't have to worry about the politic of everything else.
Well said.
Because I'm not trying to get anybody's money. I'm not trying to curry any favor. I'm going in knowing. It's not a surprise that they're going to come in and try to go guns blazing against me.
Right.
I'm fine with that, because somebody has to do it. This seat has not been challenged in 17 years.
Right.
See, the thing that's going to make it so sad too is that people don't realize that's how the Tea Party movement came up. As a grassroots organization, just as little people just ignored them, and then next thing they took over the Republican Republican Congress.
Yeah, and that was that destructive energy that I was talking about. How you can channel that grassroots into something negative or to something positive.
Correct.
And we do not have the progressive. We don't have a Tea Party of people saying we need Medicare for all in this country. We need a $15 minimum wage. We need to make sure that we transition to a renewable energy economy by 2028. Yeah. Nobody's saying that. No one's pushing it hardcore. It's just like Katy Perry out here. And we need way more than that.
That's what it's gonna do.
I just want to know, do you have to live in your district? Or can you live outside of your district?
Me personally,
no,
or
not
someone?
Just anybody who's running. If I want to run for
this is a great
North Bronx Congressman.
So this is a great thing. Joe Crowley's not only he's not only had this whole situation, he doesn't even live here.
Why would he?
He lives in Virginia, y'all.
What?
Yes.
Hey, so hold on, you got
So wait, he has
a Caucasian man.
Yes.
You got a Caucasian man that's a congressman for the Bronx, Queens, and Rikers Island that lives in Virginia. If this don't make no common sense to anybody, I don't know what y'all doing.
If you popped him in the Bronx, he would get lost.
But does he have a residency area that he has?
So what he does is that he
has an apartment, a studio somewhere.
Yeah, so to run, just to run for office, you technically don't need residency, but once you're elected, you do. So he uses his mom's old address.
Wow. That really is an old address.
Yeah.
So there's nothing we could just put on blast to say, listen, he shouldn't even be a congressman in New York if you're living in Virginia.
You could, as a voter, you could just be like, why do you why aren't you just the congressman for Virginia? His children are there. His children go to school there. His wife is there. His car is there. His actual house is there. Could you imagine if we did, when they had MTV Cribs, MTV Congressman Cribs, show us your crib here.
So you know what? Just from what you're saying right now, and just hearing stuff like that, we're gonna definitely more and more, but all of us here and hopefully the rest of the DSN people will definitely put this out more, because a lot of people don't really realize what's going on in their neighborhood, and then having somebody from Virginia make decisions for your area and don't care about your area because
he
they don't live in your area.
He ain't even here.
So, you know, we're going to have to definitely put more of this out there like that.
And there are all these little details, you know, that match up, and it kind of makes it personal in a way. Like Bill de Blasio or even Michael Bloomberg, no matter how you feel about those people politically, they lived in New York, but they also like made an effort to connect with the people here. Like they learned Spanish. Like this district is 60% Latino, 70% Latino. Like they learn. Joe Crowley's lived here 20 years, doesn't speak a lick of Spanish in a district that's like 60%, 70% Latino. Like he doesn't even try. I mean, I'm not saying that my Spanish is the most perfect thing in the world, but I can speak it.
But you're amongst. You live here, you work here, you buy your food here, you shop here, you help this economy here. There's no comparison. We got a few minutes left, and I want people to realize, okay, June 26th June 26th is the primary. You got to go out and vote. If you're in your district, 14th district, you got to go out and vote. Don't just, you know, I know Love and Hip Hop might be on, or, you know, hey, you know, but it might be a nice day. You might want to go to City Island. No, we got to be late for work for a little bit. Go vote. And not just because we say it, it's because this woman here represents it. Before we got 1 minute left, and I want to thank you again. This will not be the last time you see us. It won't be the last time here, and we're going to definitely help you out in the pocket. You got the camera person here, so we can't lie anyway. Hold on.
No, I just want to ask you one quick thing. Do you have a website?
Yes, so here's the plug, Ocasio2018.com, OCASIO2018, and then we're an entirely small dollar, you know, donation campaign, so $5, $10, $20 donations, Ocasio2018.com/donate, and then Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of it.
Before you get out of here, you got the DSN cameras, you got our national audience, you got your own personal team. Let people know in 30 seconds why they should be voting Ocasio in 2018.
Absolutely, because this country needs a change, and we need elected officials working for voters that are fighting for prosperity for working class Americans, for social justice, economic justice, racial justice, and that to make sure that we're all in it and that our interests are vested in the community. I have taken a public pledge not to take any corporate PAC money. So when you vote for us, you're voting for someone that is authentically communicating with the community, no ulterior motives, no promises, no someone that I got else that I need to deliver for. We are working for the community, and that is our campaign. We are the candidate here. We are the campaign here to be supporting.
A change has come. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Thank you so much
thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.